Okay, so I have a bit of a logic puzzle for you to kick things off today.
Oh boy. All right, let's hear it.
Imagine you have three very distinct things just sitting on a table in front of you.
Mhm.
Item one is a 16th century samurai warlord, famous for uniting a fractured Japan.
Okay, Warlord. Got it.
Item two is just a simple handheld mirror. And item three is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for the year 2030.
I mean, that sounds like the setup to a very obscure, very complicated history joke.
It really does. But according to the stack of lectures, historical documents, and the research we're covering in today's deep dive, these three things aren't random at all.
Right.
If you connect them in the right order, you apparently get a blueprint for, well, saving the world.
It's a pretty bold claim. We usually think of the SDGs, those colorful icons regarding climate action, poverty, sustainable cities, as this very modern bureaucratic policy.
Exactly.
But the sources for this dive argue that the software needed to actually run those goals was written thousands of years ago.
Ancient software for modern hardware. I really love that concept.
Yeah.
So, that is our mission today. We are going to decode the Hukoku Shrine in Osaka. We need to figure out how a place dedicated to a ruthless warrior teaches us about peace, why the path to the shrine is anatomically surprising, and why the most important thing in the sanctuary isn't a god, but a reflection.
And we have quite the itinerary for you today. We're looking at shrine lineages dating back 1,300 years, some deep architectural analysis, and some fascinating anthropological takes on how animism might just be the ultimate cheat code for environmental sustainability.
Let's drop the pin. We are mentally traveling to Osaka, Japan. Specifically, we are standing on the grounds of the Hukoku Shrine.
Hmm.
But before we walk through the gates or wash our hands, we have to talk about the man on the sign. Who is the main figure of this shrine?
That would be Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And calling him a figurehead is almost an understatement. In Japanese history, he is a titan. He's one of the three great unifiers. But the thing the sources emphasize, and what makes him so relevant to our sustainability discussion today, is where he started.
Because he wasn't born into the elite, right? He wasn't born with a silver katana in his hand.
Far from it. This is the ultimate rags to riches story. He was born into a peasant family in the mid-1500s. No status, no name value.
And in a feudal society.
Exactly, where your birth determined your worth. If you were born a farmer, you died a farmer. That should have been the end of the story for him.
So how does a peasant become the guy they eventually build a shrine for? How do you break that kind of glass ceiling?
Pure strategic genius and incredible leadership capability. He joined the Oda clan as a lowly servant. Some stories even say he was just a sandal bearer.
A sandal bearer, wow.
Yeah, but he climbed the ranks through sheer competence. He became a general, then a powerful warrior, and eventually the first shogun to unify the entire nation of Japan. He ended over a century of civil war, known as the Sengoku period.
The Great Unifier, that's a heavy title.
It is, and for Osaka specifically, he's essentially the patron saint. He built the original Osaka Castle in 1583. He took Osaka from a strategic military point and turned it into this massive hub for trade and commerce.
He laid the economic foundation for the city that exists today.
He did. So when locals visit Hukoku Shrine, they aren't just praying to some abstract sky god. They're paying respects to a very human legacy of success, ambition, and city building.
But here is the wrinkle in the timeline that the sources pointed out, which I found totally fascinating. The shrine is dedicated to Hideyoshi, who lived in the 16th century. But the documents say the lineage of the shrine, the spiritual foundation it sits on, goes back over 1,300 years, linking to the Kojiki.
Right, the Kojiki.
That's the collection of ancient myths, right?
Right.
Origin stories of Japan.
Correct. So you have this fascinating layering effect. You have a relatively modern samurai hero layered on top of ancient mythological spiritual ground. It creates a bridge between the historical reality of Japan and the spiritual mythology.
And that bridge is what we're going to walk across right now. Let's literally walk it. The sources spent a lot of time breaking down the architecture of the shrine.
Yes, they did.
And I think for a lot of listeners, or anyone who hasn't been to Japan, a shrine visit can look like just a nice walk in a park. But the sources describe it as a highly structured simulation.
Simulation is a really great word for it. It's a designed experience meant to alter your consciousness.
It starts with the gate, the torii, the big red structure with two pillars and a crossbar. You see them on postcards everywhere.
Right. Now, aesthetically, they are beautiful, but functionally, the torii acts as a border control station for your mind. It marks the transition from the profane to the sacred.
The profane being traffic, emails, what you're having for dinner, the argument you had with your boss.
Precisely, the secular world. The moment you cross under the torii, the architecture is telling you that you are leaving that noise behind. You are entering the domain of the kami, the spirits.
It's a psychological switch.
Yeah, and if you don't flip that switch, you aren't really in the shrine, even if your physical body is there.
Okay, so I've crossed the border. I'm in the zone. But I can't approach the main hall yet. I have to stop at the water basin, the chozuya.
Yes, you'll see a stone basin with wooden ladles. The ritual is specific. You wash your left hand, your right hand, and you rinse your mouth.
Is this just hygiene? Like, don't bring germs to the gods?
It's deeper than hygiene. It's misogi, purification. In Shinto, the concept of impurity, often caused by death, sickness, or just the grime of daily life, is a spiritual weight. You have to wash it off.
The sources mention something pretty intense here, that the ladle is just the light version of this ritual.
Yes. The ladle is the user-friendly version. In the more formal or ancient traditions, this wasn't a ladle of water. You would physically go into a river, a full-body immersion to scrub away the secular world.
That would certainly wake you up. Imagine doing that in winter.
It creates a somatic marker. You feel the cold, the water, the change. It emphasizes the point that you can't just stroll in with your muddy boots, physically or metaphorically. You have to be a clean vessel to receive the message.
So we're purified, we're wet, maybe, if we took the river option. Now we walk the main path toward the sanctuary. And this is where the sources threw me a massive curveball. I had to read this 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. The path is a birth canal.
It is surprisingly literal, isn't it? The path is called the sando. The characters can mean path of worship, but phonetically and symbolically it links to the concept of the birth canal.
Why? What is the logic there?
It goes back to the central deity of Shinto, Amaterasu, the sun goddess. She is a female deity, a mother figure to the nation, mythologically speaking. So the layout of the shrine mimics the female anatomy.
So walking toward the sanctuary
is symbolically returning to the womb. It's a return to the source of life.
That frames the whole experience so differently. In a lot of Western religion, you approach a king on a throne. There's judgment, authority, height. Here you're returning to a mother. It feels safer, or at least more intimate.
It's about comfort and rebirth. You aren't a subject begging a ruler. You're a child returning to nature. It suggests that the divine isn't something above you that you need to fear, but something you came from.
Okay, so we've traveled through the canal. We are at the main hall. We have to do the prayer. And the sources gave us the specific choreography for this. It's not freestyle jazz. There's a protocol.
No, you don't just wing it. First, the offering. You toss a coin into the wooden box.
And it has to be a 5-yen coin.
Traditionally, yes. And this is my favorite part because it's a linguistic one.
Right, the Japanese word for 5 yen.
Exactly, it's go-in. But go-in is also the word for karma or a good connection.
So you're throwing a good connection into the box.
You are literally paying for a good relationship with the deity. It's a spiritual dad joke that has lasted centuries.
I love it. Here's a nickel. Let's be friends. So the coin goes in. Then what?
2 deep bows, then 2 loud claps.
Why the clapping? Is it to wake the god up?
Essentially, yes. It's the doorbell. It signals, I am here. It shifts the vibration of the space. Then you keep your hands pressed together, you make your prayer or set your intention, and you finish with 1 final bow.
2 bows, 2 claps, pray, 1 bow. Got it.
It's simple, but doing it physically really helps center the mind.
Okay, now we get to the center of the maze. The doors to the sanctuary are open. We are looking at the holiest object in the shrine. And this is the part that connects back to that logic puzzle I started with. It's not a statue of Hideyoshi. It's not a dragon. It's not a book of laws. It's a mirror.
Just a simple round mirror.
This feels like a magic trick. Why a mirror?
This is the most profound philosophical piece of the puzzle. In many religions, you look at an idol. You look at a face of a god that is external to you. But in Shinto, the mirror reflects you.
So I go to pray to God, and I see my own face staring back.
You see yourself. But the theological implication is that the kami, the divine spirit, resides within you. By polishing the mirror or looking into it, you are asked to confront your own nature. It's a tool for self-reflection, not idol worship.
The sources mention equality here, too.
Right. A mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't care if you're the shogun or the peasant. It reflects exactly what is there. It symbolizes that in the eyes of the divine or nature, everyone is on the exact same footing. There is no discrimination in a reflection.
It's interesting because the sources make a strong point that Shinto isn't really a religion in the way we usually define it in the West. There's no Bible, no Ten Commandments, no thou shalt nots.
That's a crucial distinction. Western religion is often very doctrinal. Do this, don't do that, here's the holy text. Shinto is more of a set of customs based on gratitude. It's about animism.
Let's unpack animism, because that sounds like animal, but it's much broader.
Much broader. Animism is the belief that spirit or kami resides in everything. Not just people or animals. Trees, rocks, waterfalls, the wind, the whole world is alive.
The source even mentioned cars.
Yes, even cars. Modern objects.
How does a car have a spirit? That sounds a bit like a Pixar movie.
It's not that the car has a ghost inside it that talks to you. It's about the relationship you have with the object. The car provides a service. It carries you safely to your destination. Therefore, you owe it gratitude. You treat it with respect.
So you don't kick the tires, you don't slam the door.
You don't abuse your tools. You don't trash the environment. Because if God is in the river, polluting the river isn't just illegal, it's a direct insult to the divine.
And this is where the bridge to 2030 starts to form. We have this mindset of God is in everything, and community is built on gratitude. The sources argue that these values, which seem very spiritual, are actually the practical framework for the Sustainable Development Goals.
It's a fascinating leap. To understand it, the lecture material takes us back way before Hideyoshi. We have to go to the Jomon period.
We're talking ancient history now.
Deep history, 10,000 to 3,000 years ago. The Jomon people were the hunter-gatherers of Japan. But unlike many ancient societies that were constantly at war for resources, the archaeological record for the Jomon shows very little conflict.
How do they actually know that?
Graves. When you dig up Jomon skeletons, you don't find many skulls bashed in by weapons. You don't find massive fortifications around their villages.
So they were peaceful. That's incredibly rare for human history.
Extremely rare. They lived in a society that prioritized collaboration over competition. They lived in harmony with nature because they had to. They recognized they were part of the ecosystem, not masters of it. And the argument here is that this Jomon spirit, this DNA of cooperation, is the direct ancestor of Shinto.
And by extension, the software for the SDGs.
Exactly. The SDGs are trying to engineer a society that values sustainability and peace. The Jomon people lived that society for thousands of years. We are basically trying to relearn what they knew instinctively.
Let's test this theory. Let's look at specific goals mentioned in the text. Let's start with SDG 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities. How does Shinto help build a modern city?
Think about the festival, the Matsuri. In Osaka, or any Japanese city, when the shrine festival happens, the whole neighborhood comes out. They carry the mikoshi, the portable shrine, together. It requires intense physical coordination and teamwork. You have 20, 30 people shouldering a heavy load.
It's a team-building exercise for the whole block.
It creates social capital. In a modern city, loneliness and isolation are huge issues. We live in boxes and don't know the person next door. A sustainable city isn't just about solar panels, it's about social fabric. If a disaster hits, do you know your neighbor? In a Shinto-based community, the answer is yes, because you carried the shrine together last week.
That's a really tangible connection that turns a population into a community. What about SDG 13, Climate Action? This feels like the easiest fit, given the nature worship.
It is a slam dunk, but it shifts the why. If you view nature as a resource to be exploited, you get climate change. Even if you view nature as something we need to manage so we don't die, it's still utilitarian.
Right, it's still about us.
But if you view nature as a host of deities, as animism does, you get true protection. You aren't saving the forest because the UN told you to. You're saving it because it's sacred.
It changes the motivation entirely. Internal motivation versus external regulation.
Exactly. The sources argue that we need that spiritual connection to nature to truly commit to climate action. You protect what you love and respect. You simply don't exploit what you worship.
Now let's get to the thorny one. SDG 16. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. The source material got a little spicy here regarding religion and war.
They did. They bring up what they call the absolute truth trap.
Break that down for us.
Historically, the lectures point out that monotheistic religions believing in one singular God often come with the idea of one singular truth. If I am right, you must be wrong, and if you are wrong, I might need to convert you, or in extreme cases, fight you, to save your soul.
It creates a binary. Us versus them. Truth versus heresy. Now, just to be clear for the listener, we're just conveying the arguments made in the source material here, not taking a stance on world religion.
Right, absolutely. We're just looking at the anthropological argument being made.
Yeah.
And the argument contrasts that binary with Shinto, which is polytheistic, poly meaning many. There are said to be 8 million gods in the Shinto pantheon.
8 million.
It's more of a metaphor for infinite. But the mindset is, I have my gods, you have your gods, and that's perfectly fine. It's fundamentally inclusive.
The sources mentioned the wedding and funeral mashup in Japan, which I thought was a perfect example of this.
Yes, it's very common in Japan to have a Shinto wedding, celebrate Christmas a few months later, and then eventually have a Buddhist funeral. And nobody thinks it's weird. Nobody thinks it's a contradiction.
In some cultures, that would be completely unacceptable. Pick a side.
In Japan, it's just Tuesday. This ability to hold multiple truths simultaneously is exactly what SDG 16 needs. Peace comes from tolerance. The sources argue that if we can accept that there are multiple ways to be right, conflict naturally goes down.
It's like tolerance is baked into the operating system.
And don't forget the justice part of SDG 16. We go back to the mirror again. Shinto relies heavily on self-policing through gratitude and shame. You don't steal, not because of a strict commandment or because a security camera is watching you, but because it would shame your ancestors and break the harmony of your community.
Gratitude is a governance strategy. It sounds soft, almost too nice, but it worked for the Jomon for 7,000 years.
That's the major takeaway here. We tend to think of innovation as new tech, flying cars, AI, carbon capture. But the Hukoku Shrine suggests that social innovation, how we actually treat each other and the planet, might require looking backward.
We have the hardware of the future. We have the tech to solve these problems. We have the solar panels and the electric grids.
But we're running it on the wrong software. We're running it on competition and exploitation. We need to reinstall the cooperation and gratitude update from the Jomon period.
That is a fantastic way to frame it. It's not about abandoning technology at all. It's about upgrading the soul of the user.
Perfectly said.
So we've gone from the warlord Hideyoshi, who used his ambition to build an entire city, walked through the birth canal, clacked our hands to wake up the spirits, and looked into the mirror. And what we found looking back at us was a set of values that might actually get us to 2030 in one piece.
It suggests that the answers aren't always out there in a new policy paper. Sometimes the answer is right in the room or in the mirror.
It puts the responsibility squarely back on the individual,
Which is pretty scary.
but also incredibly empowering.
Exactly. If the mirror reflects you, then you are the one who has to act. You can't wait for the deity to fix the climate. The deity is in you.
A heavy thought, but a deeply hopeful one.
I think so. It transforms the SDGs from a bureaucratic to-do list into a real way of life.
We've covered a lot of ground in time today. I really want to thank you for guiding us through the shrine.
It was a pleasure. A very unique trip.
And to everyone listening, the next time you look in a mirror, whether it's in your bathroom or a hallway, take a second. Don't just check your hair. Look at the reflection and ask yourself, what kind of future is that person building?
That's the real question.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.